What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we're going to talk about the struggles going on in Arizona right now between the fires that are burning, one in Tucson and one in Phoenix, or one north of Tucson and one north of Phoenix, and then also the update on what's going on with coronavirus. These are two things that are challenging our governor, Doug Ducey, as he's trying to keep the peace and whatnot with also the protests. He wants peaceful protests. So there's like three things that are kind of keeping the governor on his toes. And, it's kind of crazy out for him. But for the most part, life in Arizona continues to go on pretty normal, except for here out in Phoenix. If you look northeast, just north of Apache Junction, you see big billowing clouds of smoke. If you guys are not already in our group, Living in Arizona on Facebook, you'll see the updates that we're posting in there about all three subjects: the two fires and the coronavirus. Now, also, if you guys want to keep up with me on my other channel, I have another channel called Next Global News. I talked about two subjects, one of them being universal basic income. If you guys want to jump into that conversation, go check out my other channel, Next Global News. I do have 4 channels, so in case you're wondering what's going on with all that. Anyway, so yeah, let's go ahead and give you guys an update on what's going on with the fire. So the first fire is burning in Mount Lemmon, and they've set an evacuation order for Summer Haven. So it's up on Mount Lemmon. You've probably seen some of the pictures from Oro Valley at night where the whole mountain of the Santa Catalinas is just glowing, and that's pretty bad. And also, the bushfire is now the largest active burning fire in the country right now. The bushfire burning northeast of Phoenix is now the largest. Geographic data from National Interagency Fire Center shows June 16th, the bushfire has burned more than 64,000 acres. So they're having a really hard time getting this under control. If you guys are new to Arizona, you may not know, but there was a movie made about the Yarnell 19. There was 19 men that were killed in a fire in Yarnell, Arizona in 2013, I believe. You guys can look it up. It's called the Yarnell 19 or something like that, The Strongest Men or something like that. Anyway, it's on Netflix if you guys want to see just how these fires move out here in Arizona, especially if you're thinking about moving here. It was a pretty tragic story, actually. It's up there by Prescott. But, these firefighters are right there. It's 103 degrees today. They're battling these fires in 2 different areas. And then on top of that, thanks to the 14 people who already crushed up the likes, by the way. On top of that, we also have the coronavirus, which supposedly now Arizona is leading the nation in, or one of the states leading the nation in, reported new cases. And this is kind of raising some eyebrows. Some Senator Kristen Sinema is saying Governor Ducey has his priorities are misguided. People, believe it or not, people are demanding the government to tell them what to do. I never thought, I thought we had already moved on to this point where people were begging the government to tell them what they needed to do. But there's people out there in Arizona who are demanding the governor tell them to wear a mask. And so people are really, a lot of people are blown back that there's people out there who are asking the government to tell them what to do, because, history would tell you, you don't typically want the government telling you what to do, because that's taking away your freedoms and it's unconstitutional for them to even do so. So people are kind of like, how did this happen, where people are demanding that the governor tells them they need to wear masks? And then you guys might think, well, Jeff, I think you're overstating that, or you're embellishing that. No, there's really people out there begging the government to tell them what to do. I guess on the other side of that, when it comes to the mask, because I'm not an expert on masks, I do have a mask here, but I guess supposedly the benefit to wearing a mask is, anyone want to tell me? I mean, they say that if I'm wearing a mask and I'm sick, it'll prevent you from getting sick. They also want the stay-at-home orders to come back. And the way I view that is, well, if you want to stay home, stay home. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. And then obviously I would say to people, you should practice social distancing until the virus is under control. I mean, Going out to nightclubs and doing beer bongs or beer pong, where you're sharing drinks back and forth, because that's what college kids do. That might not be the best idea right now. But if you're one of those people who's concerned, you probably should stay home. I don't think you need the government to tell you to stay home, because I think you're allowed to do that if you want to. But life has to go on. We can't let what is this saying? I'm trying to quote something. Don't let the remedy be worse than the problem. So it's kind of amazing. And in terms of your kids going to school, I think if you're worried about sending your kids back to school, maybe you don't have to. Maybe they can still have alternatives to going to school instead of being in a classroom, if that's really what you're concerned about. But yeah, I mean, it's really a wild world we're living in. It seems like one thing after another in 2020. 2020 is going to go down in history as like, whoa, SHTF, right? This is the SHTF year where things really hit the fan, didn't it? Let's see here. Nitsa says, I'm a nurse. People on vents are not the average healthy folk. Yeah, I actually have a person that I live with here who is a nurse. I'm not going to say where, but she was saying also that even in whatever the reports on the news aren't matching up with what she's actually seeing in the hospital, where they're saying like hospitals are overwhelmed and it's getting crazy in there. And then I'm saying, well, you work in a hospital. Do you see this incredible influx of patients and whatnot? And she said, no. I said, no, seriously, do you or don't you? Like, do you or don't you? She's like, no, not really. But it's like kind of like part of the culture in the medical industry to like say the same thing that, like, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. But then when you actually push them for the answers, they're like, no, not really. I mean, you hear about it, but it's not like taken over. But you turn on the news and they'll tell you hospitals are over capacity. And then you listen to the governor and he's telling you that the hospitals are not over capacity, even though the cases are going up. So you're getting this mix of political views going on. And, my best thing that I could say is, if you want to wear a mask, please be my guest. If you want to stay home, please be my guest, stay home. But I don't think you need the government to tell you what to do, because that's a dangerous, slippery slope to go down. History will tell you that. You don't need to look too much further than history to see what happens, because what happens, power corrupts, doesn't it? So anyways, thanks to the 28 people who crushed up the likes. I wanted to put out this information. If you guys have any information on any of these subjects about the 2 fires burning, one in Tucson and one in Phoenix, as well as the coronavirus, please do put out the information. WW says, people love to be scared. Oh my God, if I didn't wear my sheet mask, I'm going to die. I'm so scared. That's what DD just said, or WW just said. Daniel says, we are moving out to Buckeye in September. Do you think there will be any restrictions for out-of-state people moving in? So far as I know, no. That's the truth. I don't know of any restrictions as of yet. Supreme Comedian says, I agree. It's personal choice. People don't want personal accountability these days. Some way, somehow, there's been this institutional indoctrination that's taught people that they need to be dependent on the government. And I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where this line of thought is coming from. And if you guys can please update me where it's coming from, because it's obviously coming from somewhere. Thanks to the 30 people who crushed up the likes. Kathy says, didn't want to stay home, enjoyed Arizona, no symptoms, didn't expect any, love AZ. Well, that's good news. Lori says, is there a gift tax there? Gift tax? I don't know about that. That's a good question. Supreme Comedian says, throughout the year, how common are fires like this? Pretty much every summer we get fires. But they don't happen in the big cities. They just happen in the mountains. So if you guys are just jumping onto this channel and you guys haven't already watched some of our other videos, you can turn on the bell to get notified when we go live. So you hit subscribe, and then you hit that little bell and hit all, and then you'll get notified when we drop new videos about Arizona if you guys are just tuning in to this channel. But also, we did a video where we went the back roads, the off-road to Crown King up in the Bradshaw Mountains on the way to Prescott. And yeah, along the way, there was like little mini areas where there was fires. Like you would see like thick pine trees, and then all of a sudden you'd come to an area where it looked like a disease or something got to the trees, but really it was just a fire. So fires happen. I mean, it's pretty common. You'll see, like, even in that video, there was Smokey the Bear holding in a sign saying fire danger high today. So WW says exactly. It's coming from the Dems. They're okay. I'm not going to say that. Corey says libs like to think of government as parents. WW, this is a good channel. Jeff, thank you. Hey, thanks, WW. Susie says, why doesn't Tucson use the 747 tanker they have on contract? That's a good question. I mean, if they're going to use the tax dollars to buy a big old 747, might as well use it. But I'm sure for a fire like that, I mean, they're probably busting out everything in the arsenal. I mean, if there was ever a time that Tucson needed to bust out every tool in the toolbox, this fire they got up there called the BigHorn Fire, they're going to have to use everything. But if they have a 747 that they could use and they're not using it, I'd be surprised. It could be because it's such high elevation. Maybe the 747 can't get all the way up there. I don't know. Let's see. Jane says, hi, Jeff. Love your channel. Thank you, Jane. CM says, only you can prevent forest fires. That is true. Design Zone. Recently heard the air quality sucks in the valley. Must be a lot worse with the fires. I mean, the air quality, I've been to places, I think air quality pretty much everywhere is a little bit suspect. I mean, Prescott, Arizona, which was 2 videos ago. If you haven't already seen it, you can go watch that video. But Prescott supposedly has some pretty good air quality, some of the best in the nation. So anyways, just wanted to put that out. Moving from Miami to Phoenix, job relocation. You're right about the power corruption. The wind changed direction and the county mayor kept changing curfew times. Okay. Corey says, I see houses have walls instead of fencing. Does that help prevent fire spread? So down in the Phoenix city area, you won't see like a fire spread like that, because what it is it's like tinder as in like fire tinder. So you'll have like dried out plants, dried out shrubs, dried out bushes. That's what catches fire. And especially if it's heavily wooded, that stuff just catches on fire, and that's what makes the fire really spread like wildfire. But down in Phoenix, you just don't have like 5-alarm fires burning house after house after house. Those houses that are burning, those are in like rural areas where they have property. So you want, I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but you don't typically see like a 5-alarm blaze like that. Where we did have a 5-alarm blaze that was actually attributed to arson about a week ago, where a guy burned down a brand new, there was an apartment complex, a huge apartment complex was under construction on Central Avenue down in downtown Phoenix. And it caught on fire at like, I want to say early in the morning or late at night. I can't remember. Anyway, they found out it was arson. So, but in a big fire like that, I mean, huge fire, it only burned just the building. It didn't like burn the neighboring buildings. Okay. So let's see here. Jane says, it's spreading over to Mount Lemmon, Mount Bigelow, and Summerhaven. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the start of the Aspen Fire back in 2003. Hello, Habib. Nietzsche says, t-shirt comment. Robin says, what does it look like in St. John's? St. John's is over in eastern Arizona. St. John's, it looks like, it looks kind of like Montana, I guess you could say. It's actually kind of like almost New Mexico. So it kind of also looks like New Mexico. It's way out there in eastern Arizona by Springerville and Eager. It's just beyond, that's actually where John Wayne, that's the area where John Wayne used to have his ranch. But it's kind of like beyond the White Mountains. Jamie says, what's up, Jeff? Your channel convinced my family to move to Arizona, looking for jobs. Any suggestions? Been applying. Crazy, no hits. Yeah, I mean, right now is really not a good time to be applying for jobs, that from what I can understand, due to the fact that a lot of everything is like, a lot of the industries are at like 70%, and people are kind of concerned with hiring. But if you haven't already, check out the new hydrogen electric car company, Nikola. And then there's also another electric car company called Lucid Motors. Thanks to the 35 people who crushed up the likes, by the way. Dwayne says, I worked at KNXV ABC in the 90s. It was Fox then. It was 122 degrees one day, shut down the airport. Dude, I remember that. They were like, they took an egg and they cracked it and they put it onto the sidewalk and it cooked the egg. 122 degrees. Right now, today, I don't know. It was only 103 degrees. At least that's what my thermometers were saying. But my plants were looking like, for some reason today, my plants, even though I watered them last night and today, they really looked like they were just really getting cooked by the heat today. So today was one of those hot days. Once it starts to get over like 110, we'll start to see the storm clouds from the monsoon start brewing up over the horizon. And a lot of people that I'm talking to out here, they're really excited for the monsoon season to kick into high gear. I personally am excited for that. One of the things that was going on today, which was really concerning for me because of the fire, was it was really windy in my backyard today. And I was just thinking, like, that's what's making that fire up in the superstitions or beyond the superstitions all the way up to like Pumpkin Center over there by Roosevelt Lake, Canyon Lake, all that stuff. That wind is just taking that fire and just pushing it and just throwing it around. And that's really fueling this fire. So WW says 103, but the humidity is in the single digits. Yeah, actually, that's something to point out. Like, I'll run my AC in the middle of the night and I'll get a notification from my air conditioner saying, hey, your humidity is too low in your house. And so, like, you know, when your humidity is too low, it kind of makes your throat a little scratchy when you wake up in the morning. So, you know, because all that dry, cool air is blowing, but not enough moisture in the air. So that's something to keep in mind. WW says, I'm a new Republican. I voted for Obama and Hillary, and I'm sorry. We need our Second Amendment. I can't go blue. Well, you know, we try to keep politics off this thing, but I hear you about, you know, frustrations. Everyone's frustrated on all sides of the spectrum. Shasta Frog says, dry winds dehydrate the plants, stressing them out. Yeah, that's probably what it was then. There was a lot of dry winds. It was really dry today. No, I don't own a humidifier. I may get one. Should I get one? Mark, do you water your plants more than once a day? Depends. The big key, if you really want to water your plants correctly, is like twice a week. Okay, especially for the big trees. If you have like certain tropicals, you know, you're gonna have to water them a little bit more. But for like big trees, the big key is a slow water. You'll notice down here in like the farm areas of like Queen Creek and Santan Valley, when you see these people with these big tall trees, they flood their yard. So they turn on the hose to flood their yard, and what that does is it gets the water all the way down to the roots. Because what happens is if you only water just like say for 15 minutes a tree, the water never gets down to the deep roots, so it only grows shallow roots. So when a big heavy wind comes along, the tree is prone to get knocked over because it doesn't have deep roots. So the main thing is you want to like kind of like slow water it. So if you're just watering one tree, you turn on your hose, maybe like a little bit, not all the way, like a quarter of the way, and you just let it go for like 2 hours, and that helps get the water down to the deep roots. That's the key. So that's the key to when it comes to like the shrubs. I mean, it's a little bit different depending on each plant. Some people get these tropicals, some people get the desert plants. I mean, if it's a desert plant, you only need to water it like maybe once a week, maybe less. Yeah, good time to water is in the mornings. You're right. Hey, Shame, how many dust storms in AZ gets? Okay, so we did get a dust storm about, I want to say we got a dust storm 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we haven't had one since. Dust storms are not very common, but they happen maybe, sometimes they'll happen 2 in 1 year, and sometimes you won't get any. But as you know, they're called haboobs. They're like a wall of dust. They're pretty, I mean, when the haboobs are coming in, the whole sky turns into like this very like, you know, apocalyptic, like get your camera out and run for the high ground because you're going to get some great pictures. Or if you have a drone, get your drone in the air and take those pictures. Thanks, Habib. So Burn Till They Learn says, on Arizona's on fire because the California communists. Oh no, I'm not reading that, man. Sorry. I'm not reading that. Oh my gosh. Mark says, any damage to the wildlife, wild Mustangs up the 87 from the fire? Good question. I don't know yet. That is something that anytime there's a fire, there's always going to be challenges for the wildlife. I would imagine that the ranchers are helping the wildlife at some point, even the the fire service. But yeah, sorry guys, I can't read some of those stuff when you guys start calling people, you know, names and stuff because they're political affiliation. Because we have people from all political affiliations on this channel. So I have to remain agnostic as to that subject. Corey says, do you have any specific fears for the future of Arizona? Well, I mean, if you're talking about Arizona in general, a couple things that, yeah, I actually could. I have a long list of things that you should keep on your radar. I can give you a little list of them right now, thanks to the 47 people who crushed up the likes. I'll go on my little tangent real quick before we finish up this live stream, but I could probably make a dedicated video to this particular subject. One is obviously the drought. Anytime there's a drought, it could lead to a potential famine, something like that. We also have a major nuclear power plant called Palos Verdes Power Plant. If there was ever a meltdown or something serious happened to Palos Verdes Power Plant, that would be a pretty big issue. So between the water and the power plant, that doesn't even include economically. Right now, we have a major economic boom happening because the city is growing, but the city at the city will stagnate at some point. It won't always keep swelling and growing forever, because at some point it will slow down. And when it slows down, what's going to happen to all those construction jobs? What's going to happen to all those real estate jobs? There's going to have to be more industry development here in Arizona besides just real estate and construction. Right now, being in real estate and construction is a big thing. But if you flash back to 2007, 2008, that was a real big concern when things really slowed down, was all the construction jobs. In fact, one of the things that kind of ended up happening was they were using labor from Mexico. So a lot of Mexican labor force a lot of Mexican laborers build a lot of the stuff out here. But there was such a big building boom, and most of the job sites, 95% from Mexico. I mean, you go to the job site, they're listening to mariachi music, and it's like a big old fun parade of, it's just, I don't know if you guys ever go to Mexico. It sounds like a mariachi. It's fun, right? And, you got the what do they call it? The roach coach going around serving up chicharrones, burritos, carne asada. Everyone's getting along, having fun, building stuff. But then when the party's over, where's all the guys going to go? All the guys that are just coming over across the border. Well, they got to go back to Mexico. But then it's kind of like, well, they can't go back to Mexico because they're waiting to see if the economy picks back up. So that wasn't a problem necessarily. It was just like, so then what ended up happening was there was a lot of undocumented workers who didn't have their visas and everything, but they were doing a good job. They were working their butts off, but they didn't have the documents. So then, if you remember correctly, in 2009, 2010, Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Joe, he brought in that there was some sort of policy that Sheriff Joe had, SB 1070, I think it was, State Bill 1070. You can look it up with Jan Brewer. But that kind of happened because there was a lot of people who were no longer employed. So, but that was for the most part because of the Arizona's dependency on construction jobs. So when there is construction boom, everybody's working, everyone's happy. It's one big happy family, one big party. But then when everyone gets laid off, they're like, hey, where's the work? Where's the paychecks? Like, what's going on? Where's the work? Well, it's not there. So it's kind of one of those things. But we got to get more diverse economics. Someone on this channel was asking about, hey, what's the job market like? And I was saying, well, right now is not a good time because, the COVID thing, which, by the way, we got to get that under control. That thing's really just, people are living way too much in fear about that. I think there's way too much fear mongering going on, honestly. If you're that scared of things like that, I don't know how you get by in the daily life. I mean, I understand fear happens and I understand anxiety and stuff, but the amount of fear mongering with the COVID thing is, I don't know where it's coming from. Anyways, Noel says, I really just want to live in the desert, Arizona, Utah. Okay. Esther says, are there any wildfires in Santan Valley yet? Well, Santan Valley, we don't really have that kind of desert that would burn. I mean, it could burn. We could get a little brush fire, but do you want there to be brush fires in Santan Valley? I mean, it's kind of like one of those things like, no, we don't want brush fires. We don't want to be manifesting that either. And no, I don't think there's going to be. I know that's not what you meant, but anyway, Andy says, if you wear 5 masks at once, you are fear mongering. Whoa. 5 masks at once. Have you guys seen my mask? Let me show you my mask. Okay, I've got a mask because supposedly they want to make this thing like mandatory, but I'll show you my mask. So it comes with these refill things right here, and then it's this black mask, okay, and it's got an N95 filter, okay, and you just kind of, you know, oh, so, and then what you do is you change out that white thing. So, I got this on Amazon. I can post a link or something, or you guys can watch my other channel, Urban J Reviews, on my EDC video. I talked about this particular mask. So if you haven't already gone over to Urban J Reviews, you can check it over there. It's EDC. Let me see if I can get you the exact video so you guys can see it. Let's see. So anyway, it's called Everyday Carry, but the mask in and of itself, I don't like wearing masks because ever since I was in even in Asia, and they were talking about wearing masks, I was like, I didn't like how it made my lungs feel. Like I felt like I was getting sick from the mask. So I'm not a big mask advocate, but if they're going to require me to wear a mask, then I've got my mask. Is this live feed still coming in? Can someone please let me know if you guys can still hear me and see what I'm saying? I cannot see any new comments coming. Oh, Lori, yeah, like I was saying, if this is your first live and you guys want to catch up with these lives, you have to turn on the bell. So where it says subscribe, you have to go to that little bell icon and you have to hit turn on all notifications, and then you'll get notified. So, Shasta Fogg says black masks are attractive. Yeah, I mean, you know, you could choose any mask, but I like the black one because I felt as though that was the one that I liked. Like I wear, you know, I just like certain things, right? I mean, I guess you could get a red one or a white one, but why would you get a white mask? It just looks weird, you know? I mean, I have seen some other colors, but I saw a blue one that was pretty cool. Maybe get a blue one. Andy says Tucson mayor is trying to make masks mandatory in public in Arizona. Yeah, I know. They're trying to make masks. They're trying to attack the governor, telling him to make it mandatory. And I was saying earlier on in this video, I was like, dude, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Like, why do you need everyone else to wear a mask? Why do you need the governor to tell you to wear a mask? Other people are saying it's unconstitutional to tell people what to do. I mean, what are you going to do? Just sew a mask to your face everywhere you go because some people are scared? If you're scared, don't even go out. I go out all the time. I go out all the time. All the time. No mask or anything. Some people look at me like, hey, why is he not wearing a mask? Other people are like, what's up, man? How's it going? I'm like, yeah, you know, do what you want to do. Yeah, people are scared about the coronavirus. The Watch Zealot says, are you afraid of getting their coronavirus? I don't want to sound cocky or anything. I don't want to sound like out of control, but the coronavirus is, I've been sick, man, before. You know, it sucks. I hate getting sick. I try to avoid it, but every winter, I almost always get some wicked sickness for 2 weeks. That I might even lose my voice some seasons, you know? Are you asking me, do I think coronavirus is going to kill me? No, I don't. Do you think it's going to kill you? I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, I've been pretty sick before, like lose my voice sick, like scratchy throat, like, you know, okay. So, I mean, I don't know. Masks are a sign of submission. They are bad for your health. Look on YouTube. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like when I wear one of these, I feel like the particulates in the mask are making me more sick. So, you know, that's just my take on it. Everyone's going to have their own take on it. But if you feel like you need to wear a mask, then do it. Seriously. But don't be telling I don't think you should be telling other people that they need to be mandatory or required. That's just my opinion. Okay. Twan says, I bet it's hot as hell there. It was kind of hot today. It was kind of hot. It really was. people need to keep their immune system strong, eat healthy, and exercise. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, are you taking your vitamins? Are you taking vitamin D? Are you taking, now I'm not a doctor, so this isn't health advice, but are you taking vitamin D? Are you taking your vitamin C? Are you taking your enzymes? Are you taking your probiotics? Are you drinking a lot of water? Are you exercising? Are you staying healthy? I mean, personal accountability. Personal accountability. It's a beautiful thing. DLP says, my buddy out in LA got threatened. Threatened for what? He says, yes, yes, yes. CM says, yes, you work out, you don't need a gym. Yeah, that's why I have my garden. Like, people are always like, oh, did you go to the gym? I'm like, I work out in my garden. Have you ever done gardening before? Sometimes you got to push a wheelbarrow. Sometimes you got to bend over and like cut plants. Sometimes you got to reach in far bending positions. Sometimes you got to carry something across the yard. Sometimes you got to dig ditches, use a shovel. Gardening is like every day, like an hour and a half, just like workout for me. So, yeah, I do other things, you know, not just that. Lori C says, yes, it causes CO2 toxicity. VJ, he says, I'm planning to move to Phoenix. My workplace is in Scottsdale. Could you recommend some places which are safe and reasonably cost price? Okay, so in Scottsdale, okay, yeah, I can make some recommendations. Number one is check out Desert Ridge. So check out Desert Ridge. It's North Scottsdale, but it's a pretty good area. There's a golf course around there called Wildfire. The high school there is called Pinnacle. Pinnacle actually wins the state championships for 6A. 6A being the biggest school title. So Pinnacle wins that. If you got, well, you said cost effective. The other place is down in South Scottsdale. It's a little bit more you know, it's a little bit more. Lori says, where's the garden channel? I post a lot of my garden stuff on Urban J Reviews. That was the other channel that I was telling you guys about. I've done like my gnome. I did a gnome because I have gnomes. I created a gnome garden back there. It's like a fairy, like a little fairy garden where you have like at night, the solar lights light up like these little flowers. And I have like little gnomes that light up around the water and it glows. So I did a video on the channel about a gnome garden, which I didn't want to do a fairy garden, but it's kind of like a fairy garden, but it's a gnome garden. Just something fun to do. I mean, it's just a theme, right? And then some of the other stuff that I did in the backyard, you know, gardening ideas about solar lights, stuff like that. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there and see what you guys think. And I'll see you guys on the next video.